Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center and Medi-Spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org. Edina Eye Physicians and Surgeons, a division of Twin Cities Eye Consultants, has proudly served the Twin Cities for more than 55 years now in 7 convenient locations. Using the most advanced technology combined with human touch, Edina Eye offers comprehensive services and dedicated specialists committed to excellence with innovative procedures and expertise for the most advanced eye care.
Welcome back to Access to Democracy. Alan Miller with you, and we have a many-time return guest here, and it's really a pleasure to see him because we haven't seen him since really before the pandemic. And Mike Burbach is the Pioneer Press. He is the vice president, he is the editor, and I guess he's the copy boy now too.
We all get to do everything.
The way things are going, and Mike, welcome back. It's so good to see you again.
Thank you, Alan. It's a pleasure to be back, and it's great to see you too, and Sharon. And I really appreciate that you have made this program work all these years, and I know it took a lot of persistence. So thank you.
We've had a lot of help. As I said, Mary has been with us for 15 years. Chuck has been with us for the last couple of years. With new equipment, we don't have the people behind the cameras that we used to have. They operate it all, fortunately for us, from the control room. So that it's just amazing. We've been very lucky with the city and with Thomson Reuters being able to provide this facility for us because it's made all the difference in the world. But things have changed all around. Things have changed at the Pioneer Press also. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this world of remote, remote cameras, remote work is an interesting thing. And it happened suddenly, of course, for everybody in March of 20, when COVID hit and the shutdowns hit. Suddenly everybody who could needed to work remote. And of course, there were lots of people who couldn't. And we know some of those stories. For the Pioneer Press, we basically bailed from the office in a day and spread out across the East Metro particularly, but the metro area to our homes to work from there. And it went, in the initial moments, it went really remarkably smoothly.
It's amazing. I mean, we missed 2 shows here, 2 scheduled dates, which we made up subsequently and went to Zoom. And all of a sudden, for 2 years, we were doing Zoom interviews.
Isn't that something?
Before we got back into the studio.
It's something.
I much prefer this, I have to tell you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. It was, it went well because of heroics by our IT department, by the people in our IT department, and because a lot of us had worked together for quite a while, so we knew each other and we knew how to roll, and because people were game to make it work. They just had to figure it out, and my colleagues are wonderful at that. So it's been interesting, and it was, there's been ebb and flow, of course, to the pandemic and our return. We thought we had it that first summer, then we thought we had it the next summer, and now we think we have it again, and I hope we do. But some of this remote work is not going to change.
You can work out of a phone booth.
You can work out of a phone booth, so to speak.
If
really,
there were phone
if
booths.
there were phone booths, yeah. And some of that is great. Some of it is really great. The flexibility to roll with your day as you wish. That's all good, and people like that a lot. Various among us, miss the office more or less. There's a lot of collegiality you miss out on. And there's a lot of what I like to call, fondly, hey you efficiency. Because every interaction, every conversation, you're exchanging some kind of information.
You miss the personnel. You miss the people that you deal with. When I was 15, I started as really the sports writer on a local Long Island newspaper. But we still had an office, and we still had a couple dozen people. Then I went to Syracuse, where I worked on the Daily Orange. And again, we had an office, and we had quite a few people. One summer, my parents happened to live here for 2 years, and I got a job as a copy boy at the Star Tribune. This vast floor full of cubicles and reporters and everything else. And, Carl Rowan was a columnist at the time, and hey boy, can you, et cetera. And I actually was able to write little blurbs about sports that summer.
That's fun.
But it's a different world. And
it's a different world.
The Pioneer Press used to have a whole floor of how many thousand feet did you have?
Well, we used to, at our peak, we had, some 220 people in the newsroom. And that's, we have a lot fewer than that now. And the whole operation was a lot bigger, every department. And because of the changes in the business, primarily the migration of advertising to Google and Facebook and Amazon and the big digital players, we've had to get smaller to adapt. Lots of industries and lots of businesses go through these titanic changes in the marketplace, and you have to figure out how to adapt. It's challenging, but it's life. It's life. You have to figure it out.
And, as we said on the elevator coming down, important to me, and I guess because of age maybe, the First Amendment, the free press is so important. It's, to me, the fabric that keeps this democracy together. And it is so important. It's one of the reasons, and we've had our problems sustaining this program for 23 years, but I still feel that we offer something that other people don't offer, whether it's half-hour interviews, not just with politicians, but with a lot of people, like yourself, like writers. A bunch of the writers who've been reviewed on the Pioneer Press have announced their books here and things like that. But it's most important now in a very uncertain time to have a free press. And I wish that people would pay more attention to the press. I wish people would read. We get 3 papers in the morning, and including the New York Times and the Press and the Star Tribune. And I sit down with the paper in my hands and I read. I don't want to be online for getting that information, and it's just, something that's ingrained in me. But it's got to be so different for you. You say you work from home most of the time.
I do, yeah, I do. But to your point about the First Amendment, they're all important, and I think all the pieces of the First Amendment are important. And the power of it, as I see it, is that it applies to the people. Freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom to redress, a petition for redress of grievances, all of that, religion, all of it. The power of it comes because they apply to the people. And there are, there's all kinds of case law that has to do with news media and the First Amendment, and we work that, but the power of it is that it's It's for the people, and we are the people in a way. So yes, it's really important, and it's been intriguing, particularly in the last 15, 20 years, to see the various ways that freedom is exercised and happens. I'm pretty familiar with what I've been doing for 40 years, but it's happening in lots of other ways too. And what I hope as this develops and as we evolve our understanding of how the First Amendment applies to all of our activities, all of the media, what I hope is that the principles, the principles of freedom and the principles of checks and balances embodied in that thing sink in broadly with people. We've all had to learn about it, but I hope that we continue to believe in the ideas in there, because they are essential.
They are what makes this democracy, the great experiment that it is,
Yes.
function. The fact of the matter is, I don't think that today's next generation is learning nearly as much about social sciences, about history, about the Constitution, the things that really are foundational to me in terms of making this country what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look around the world today. What's happening in Russia? The press is being shut down. Some journalists are assassinated. Mm-hmm. Others are in jail. Mm-hmm. Protest is dead. And it's not just Russia. Russia is just one example. China mm-hmm. and other countries we can name. So being able to have a voice and speak out and be heard, appreciate what we have in terms of freedom has never been more important, I think.
No, it's very important, and we have to buy the eternal vigilance is the price of liberty idea, because it is, the freedom and freedom of speech, freedom of all that stuff is not the way of the world. We've had to fight, we've had to imagine it. Lots of people did through the centuries. We've had to embody it, we've had to fight for it, and we always will, because human nature is what it is. And the beauty of the First Amendment and a lot of the founding principles is that embodied in there or incorporated in there are all these checks and balances, all these ways that if we hew to them, if we believe in them, if we act on them, we have a chance to persist. We can't take any of it for granted. Rule of law,
for sure,
you can't take for granted. You can't take any of it for granted.
We've seen that. I mean, I was shocked yesterday when I was watching the January 6th hearings, and I saw that the insurrectionists came within 40 feet of the Vice President of the United States.
Yeah.
And that is just beyond my comprehension, mm-hmm. that number one, that they got in there, number two, that they were led in there or directed in there mm-hmm.
by
a rogue president, unfortunately, but that they got that close. What would have happened had they gotten their hands on him?
Yeah.
Where would we be today, sitting here secure in our democracy, mm-hmm. if that had happened?
Yep. We are, we've lived in a bubble sometimes, and it's easy in any given moment to think that the way things are is the way things have to be, and it's not so. We have to know about our history, know about the things that make it possible to proceed, and then work it. And it's, I see evidence that, maybe some people aren't learning about it, but I also see evidence that some people are. That
I hope the young are.
I think a lot of people are, and we all have to. We all get to learn our lessons in our own time and in our own way. And life is just one long awakening, and you get it figured out, and then it's over. But I see plenty of evidence that young people are learning the principles. They're thinking critically about them. They're thinking critically about their part in how we make a a society where liberty and justice and the pursuit of happiness are
It's
more
their
accessible
future.
to everybody.
It's not just
Yes.
written in a book. It's
That's right.
their future. It's
Yep.
their lives.
Yep, and we have to work it.
So,
And it's hard.
so the Pioneer Press is going to come out with a front page tomorrow with a bunch of different stories on it. Now you tell me you're working basically from home. How do you get the editorial staff together to decide what's on the front page? Do we talk about the Twins game or not with a little flag up on the top, etc.? How do you do that in this day and age?
It's oddly very similar to how we always did it. We have a news meeting in the morning and a news meeting in the afternoon, and we talk to each other, and we're all kind of paying attention to some of the same things.
Basically a Zoom meeting?
Basically a Zoom meeting. That's the main difference. Now, the other difference is, of course, and this one's hard to quantify, easy to describe, but hard to quantify, is that we're not bumping into each other, every 5 minutes in the room and having a conversation about this thing or that thing, or getting the advantage of hearing somebody else's. I think that's probably true in lots of offices. But we've found ways to compensate. We still have, everybody still has lots of conversations with each other. And we pay attention to various electronic sources, social media, other websites, our own, all kinds of stuff. So the conversation is continuous as it was. It's just maybe a little more remote.
So the staff is smaller?
Yep. We're smaller as we have adjusted to this change in the business environment, which has been profound for all newspapers. It gets to be challenging, more challenging for some smaller ones, and for those that don't have the scope and scale that the big ones have, like the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal.
But you can subscribe to their services.
Yes.
And you can utilize their stories, which fortunately is a big savior for people out in the hinterlands, which I guess they consider we are. I don't. But,
that's right. A lot of people fly over us here.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's true. And the business is changing. Still, most of the money, most of the revenue comes from print for most places, but the mix of revenue is changing. The percentage that is subscriptions is much higher than it used to be. In the old days, the price of a subscription basically paid to deliver the newspaper, and advertising revenue paid for everything else. We assembled a big audience, we sold access to that audience to advertisers, and that paid most of the freight. Well, the advertising with the digital revolution has, in some cases, gone elsewhere. We still have strong, good advertising people who know their customers, know their community, and are determined to help them, and that works.
Merchants want to sell their goods.
Yes, sure.
And
they have to figure out what works for
Right.
them, and they do. And we have to adapt to make sure we can help with that for that part of the business. The growing part of the business is digital subscriptions, and that's true for most newspapers of any size. But it's an encouraging development, and it will take a lot of work. There was a fast run, and now we have to work it.
well, I have press online as well as the physical paper, although I still have a tendency to cut something out if it's something that I wanted to comment on or
save.
Save. But yes, you also have found another source of revenue in doing, for instance, things like puzzle books.
Yes.
Sharon lives with the Pioneer Press puzzle books, and she's a big puzzle and Sudoku person.
Oh yeah, they're
So
fun.
that's got to be a source of revenue for you also.
It helps. Yep, it does help. And the puzzle books turned out to be a good thing especially during the pandemic when people were stuck at home. Yeah, I like them too. I like puzzles. Yep.
I'm not a puzzle person, but I am a puzzle to a lot of people. But
There you
that's a
go.
whole-
Yeah.
that's
So
a-
yeah, we all have our part in the
Yeah.
puzzle of life, right? That's good.
Now, when it comes to candidates and endorsements, you've handled it different ways over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we now in endorsing candidates?
We're not endorsing candidates now. My thought on it is, if you're going to do that, you have to do it really well, and it is very involved. Takes a lot of time, a lot of research, and at the moment, we've decided to direct our resources to other work, gathering other news, and I don't want to do it halfway. So we're not endorsing candidates now. We're still interested, of course, and we do election news coverage before, during, and after, and we've got really good people. My colleagues are great. They work hard.
People
they
like
care.
Dave Orrick, who's been around for a
Sure.
long time,
Yep.
and people of that ilk are really, really good reporters.
They are.
They're more than reporters. They really can take a story
They
and
work
make
hard.
it, and
Yep.
make it fly.
Yep, they work hard and they care about the community and they care about the craft, and they have been remarkable during the pandemic in rolling with the challenges. So we're not doing endorsements now, and it's the maybe back in the day endorsements were influential. In recent years, last 10 or 15, I always thought, this is another piece of information that people will use as they decide for themselves how they want to vote. We want it to be more informative than prescriptive, I guess. And so that's partly why it takes a long time. They take a long time, because we used to meet with all the candidates and we were more interested in learning what they were about than in coming to a grandiose conclusion, which is, one way to approach it. There are other ways, and they all have value.
You do have editorials. Most of the time, they're from people like Bloomberg Opinion or the LA Times.
Yep.
Or whatever.
We have a mix of columnists, syndicated columnists, national ones, and then sometimes local ones as well, local op-eds. That's what
Yeah.
we've been doing most
Yeah.
recently. Yeah.
And of course, you have letters to the editor
Mhm.
and space for people to vent their spleen, which
Yes.
I do on occasion.
Yeah. It's how we
And,
figure things out.
But it really is the pulse of the community, hearing from the people who are reading the paper and talking about what's going on in the world, in the country, in the neighborhood.
Yep.
And speaking of the neighborhood, St. Paul has had some tough times.
Mhm.
Is St. Paul coming back?
I think St. Paul is still here, and it's rolling through. Like most cities, it's wrestling through the challenges of the pandemic and various other things. I love St. Paul. I think St. Paul is a great place. We have and always have had work to do, and it changes just like every other place changes. So yes, I think it is. I think we will come through these challenging times.
Bigger residential base than previously.
Than
I think.
commercial, yeah, in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. Yep. As retailing has changed, but what I'm constantly refreshed about St. Paul is there's so many, and it's St. Paul in the East Metro. It's true in the West Metro too, but we pay attention to St. Paul in the East. There are, everywhere you look, there are interesting people doing interesting things. They're all around the political spectrum. They're working from their own set of interests and values, and they're remarkable, And it is. We were talking this morning. We were interviewing a job candidate, and one of my colleagues who was with me was saying, you know, St. Paul's a big town, but it's a small town, and you talk to one person and they know somebody who you kind of know and you want to know, and it's true. There's a lot there. So I'm
Small town America. There's a lot to be said for small town America.
Yep.
That's,
big town America too, you know,
that's,
but I've lived in a few different places, and one of the lessons that you learn from doing that is take each place on its own terms. You know, look and see what's there and who's there, and take it on its own terms, and then you'll probably like it.
One of the things that people may not know about the Pioneer Press, that it's one of the few organs that's older than I am. It's 173 years,
Yes.
and that's really predates the state of Minnesota.
Yep.
So that obviously it has been a constant in the growth and the travails of the state of Minnesota.
Yep. It's been here, and we intend to keep it here. But it takes adapting. You know, these times aren't the first time that it has had to adapt, but we absolutely have to adapt.
Has the presence of the Wild and the Saints helped the economy and or the city of St. Paul?
Oh yes, oh yes. They're both, in my opinion, great to have in St. Paul, and they've been great citizens too. You know, they care about the place. They care about doing well, and they know they want their city to do well. So yeah, absolutely they have.
I see, you know, the Wild were on the cusp of greatness this year.
They were.
And maybe next year.
And maybe next year. Yep, they were exciting. And the Saints are AAA now, of course. So they were great before, and they're great now in a different way. Yep.
One of the great things about the Saints, of course, is 12 miles separates them from their major league team.
Yes.
And that's got to be something unique and very.
Yeah, if the big guys get sent down, they could walk over.
And we got to get Kirilloff back
Yes,
up on
that's right.
back up on the Twins. And,
Sounds like he's headed that way.
Yeah, I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
We got a half a minute left. Any last thoughts that you have that you'd like to share with our audience?
I would say this: we have a lot of work to do in our, you know, to make our country and our state and our city as we want, as we hope, and as we dream of. And if we organize around good things, we have a chance. It's easy to see the things we don't want, and that's fine. But if we organize around the good thing that we do want, and there's so many good things possible, we have a chance, and I think we'll get there.
Mike Burbach, Pioneer Press, St. Paul Pioneer Press. Always a pleasure, and come back again.
Thank you, Alan.
Not 3 years from now.
No, thank you very much.